As I mentioned in a previous video, the era of good feelings doesn't last very long. In fact, two twin crises are going to kill this national mood. One's going to be an economic crisis. The other is going to be a sectional political crisis. So let's handle the economic crisis, and that is, of course, the Panic of 1819. Basically, the Panic of 1819 was the result of a burst of a bubble. There was agricultural prices are going to go up, mainly because Europe is unable to feed itself because of the Napoleonic Wars, and so the United States is going to come in and try to satisfy the demand. So basically, Europe is ravaged by war because one of the hallmarks of Napoleonic warfare was eating off the land, supplying off the land, rather than have these long trains of supply wagons and logistics. So huge swaths of European countryside would be ravaged by the wars just by an army being there, much less fighting. So the demand for food is still there, and so the American farmers are going to take advantage of this. And so when demand goes up, guess what happens to the price? It goes up as well. And so the farmers are going to be more than happy to satisfy this demand, and so they start buying more land to the point that by the time it's all over, $21 million of land is going to be bought and still needs to be paid for by American farmers. This is potentially a dangerous situation. As long as the demand is high, it's fine. But once the demand drops and the prices drop, you're going to see that bubble burst, as they say. And then that's exactly what happens. In the fall of 1818, the Europeans are able to feed themselves. They're able to satisfy the food demands of their own people, so prices get cut. And the result, of course, is going to be that cotton prices fall, and banks are going to stop the loans, they're going to call in their debts, and they're going to refuse to honor drafts. And this is going to plunge the economy into what we call a panic, a recession, or at best, a depression at worst. And it's not going to end until 1824. Well, that's the economic problem of the period. There is going to be a major political problem. That's going to be the entrance of Missouri into the Union. You see, constitutionally, every state has 2 senators. And at the time period, we have 22 states, 11 slave and 11 free. That meant that slavery and slave states and free states are evenly divided in the Senate. Slavery is kept alive by spreading. This is what Lincoln campaigns on when he's running for the election of 1860. And the House of Representatives is going to start debating a bill of bringing Missouri into the Union as a slave state. Well, the problem is going to be is that when it comes into the Senate, the senators are going to balk because they're basically going to say, especially the northern senators, they're going to say, well, look, you're going to give the Senate have a majority slave Senate when it comes to the number of members of the Senate as opposed to free. And so they needed to, negotiate this settlement. And so that negotiation is going to result in the creation of not 1, but 2 states. Missouri is going to come in as a slave state, but the great compromiser of the time period, Henry Clay, is going to say, okay, we're going to bring in Missouri as a slave state. We're going to maintain this balance. How? By bringing in Maine. And basically, the Maine was at the time period a territory of Massachusetts. Massachusetts is going to let it go and become Maine. It's also going to set up a new upper limit of slavery in the Louisiana Purchase territories. You know, we think of the Mason-Dixon line as that Pennsylvania and Maryland border, but now we're going to move it more south and more to the west. We're going to call it the southern border of Missouri, the 36-degree 30-minute line. And basically, what this does is it's going to declare that any territory that's going to come in that comes into the Union during from the Louisiana Purchase, any territory north of it's going to be free, and any territory south of it is going to be slave. And it's important to note that this only applies to territories because the federal government has complete control over the territories in terms of how they're run. Once a state comes in, the state can decide what the issue of slavery is. The problem is going to be that this is going to create a nasty phenomenon known as sectionalism. You're starting to see the North versus the South. The slave versus the free, and slavery finally makes its final entrance into American politics. That's eventually just going to erode the cohesion of the Union away. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take about 40 years to do it, but once it done, but slavery is going to be the issue that's going to divide Americans the most. All of that is going to set up the backdrop for the election of 1824. With the demise of the Federalist Party, there is no outlet for dissent when it comes to dissent against the Democratic Republicans. So the Republicans are actually going to split themselves into different factions. And by the time that Monroe's second term is over, 5 candidates, most of them are members of the Monroe cabinet, are going to run. The 3 that we need to really remember are going to be John Quincy Adams, Henry Clay, and Andrew Jackson. No one runs on a platform. Clay and Adams run. He's going to be more. They're associated with centralized government, and Jackson takes no stand on any issue. But nonetheless, what we're going to see is the election of 1824 is going to be a particularly nasty one, particularly when we try to determine who's going to be the next president of the United States.